This is exciting. If you don't know what you're in for, we're going to walk you through what it's like to be a cook with view access to meez recipes. We'll take you through from accepting the invite after you, the editor, has shared, and then all the way through prepping your day using meez. It's going to be a good time. My name is Sarah Hassler. I'm the Director of Customer Success and Support here at meez. And with me today is Mitchell Berger. Mitchell?
Hi, everyone. I'm a customer success engineer here at meez. Some of you might know it's me or remember me from a meeting, but I'm a chef, old chef, ex-chef, and actually Sarah was my ex-chef.
So
So
this is a very weird, like I used to be the chef, he used to be the prep cook situation. We're living it today. Real.
we're living it. We're back.
Yes, we're back. So go ahead and pop in the chat if you would, just where you're at and what you do, what's your role, and where are you joining us from today, so we have an idea. We've got just a couple more people joining. Okay. Excellent. South Carolina pastry. Dan's joining. There we go. Not everybody that has an executive pastry chef. That's big time down there. Okay. Welcome everybody as you're joining. We're just putting in the chat where you're joining us from and what your title is. This is a boot camp for prep cooks, but basically we're going to walk you through the viewer side of things and how to set that up for a workflow inside your kitchen using meez. Eric, Tammy, Danielle here at Stoke Market in Kimberley, BC. Nice. Prep Cooks and Bakers. Excellent. Danny from Better Than Sex. Welcome. Pastry is like showing up today. The bakers are here in full force. I love it. I know there's a delineation there. I know I'm like the culinary chef, like, you know, the not cool chef. That was me. Okay. Mitchell, are you ready to start?
I'm ready to start.
Let's do it. So I'm the chef in this scenario, and I have created recipes and organized them into prep lists like we did on our previous webinar. I'll link that in the chat at the end of this if you missed that one. In order to create the prep list that we did here, you have to have edit or manager access, or if you're the owner, that helps. But Mitchell has been invited as a view only access, so as a prep cook coming in. So Mitchell, you received an invitation. It went directly to your email.
So it shows up to my email here, and I just need to click accept invitation and create account here. And it's going to pull up the screen right here. And I'm going to click sign up. And it's going to ask me for my first and last name here.
What's the H stand for, Mitchell?
The H? Hayden.
Yeah.
Hayden.
Wow.
I thought you knew that.
I did. Nobody else did.
I'm going to make a password here and click sign up.
So again, just starting 100% from scratch, your users will get an email. They accept that invitation, and then they will create an account just as is happening here. There we go. Okay. So now, do you have access to the account automatically? It looks like you do. If you do not, if you're a prep cook and you do not see the recipes that your chef sent you right away, up in the very top right, there is a little bell that should have a notification. If you see a notification there, like a little one or whatever, we get them everywhere. I don't even know that we see them anymore now that there's so many on our phones all the time. That little notification is an indication that there's something that's been shared with you that you want to click accept. So as a cook, if you see that, or if you don't see the recipes, the first way to troubleshoot this is to click that bell.
Exactly.
Mitchell, looks like you are good to go.
So I searched for my prep list here. See Mitchell's prep list here. I want to click that. And this is going to give me my prep list for the day. So I have hummus, spicy mayo, prep, and chicken stock.
So in this prep list situation, we created a super recipe as a prep list, right? So me as the chef, this was supposed to be done on 4/24, but you're late, Mitchell, just so you know.
I'm very late.
Very late. Anyway, so at that time, I created a recipe and just added in the sub recipes and the amounts that I wanted Mitchell to prep the next day. So this is me the night before saying, tomorrow I need 4 cups of hummus done, 2 quarts of spicy mayo, and 2 quarts of chicken stock. If you're walking into a prep list like this, you probably don't have a job, actually, because it's like, it's ridiculous.
I'd hope this
But
wouldn't take me all day to do.
for this example, you're very part-time, Mitchell, today. Okay, so what do you do first when you get a prep list?
So the thing I usually look for is what's going to take the least amount of time to do. I can just do in 2 minutes.
Well, I think that I disagree. So, because I think the first thing you need to do is look at how much of everything you need to make, because that's going to determine the length for some of these things.
Oh, that's true.
So, since the chef, very smart chef, has assigned you all of the quantities for the day. So, if you click the little down arrow, that will show the sub recipe, and you can see the sub recipe is set to 4 quarts, but the chef is only asking you for 4 cups. So that needs to be changed first. So as the prep cook, if I'm going in and I want to get my ingredients sorted, right? Like I want to gather my mise en place, then the first thing I'm going to do is scale each recipe as a viewer. So Mitchell, would you go ahead and change that to 4 cups?
Yeah, what you can do is click here and actually change this to cups here, and then change to 4, and that should change your recipe to 4 cups.
Exactly. And then you're going to need to do that with each of your subsequent recipes. So opening them up in the arrow and then setting your batch size. Here we called for 2 quarts. You can see that next to the title of the recipe. Now that's set, great. And for the last one, we only need 2 quarts of chicken stock. I can't imagine what we're planning to do. Only that amount of chicken stock. Okay, great. So now you've got your yields or your batch sizes set to what the chef told you to do. So just real quick, Mitchell, let's say we only have a half cup of chickpeas. What do you do?
So what you can actually do is change this over on the left side here to a half a cup, and it will change the whole recipe to make up
match
for
what you could actually make based on what you have in house. So
Exactly.
rather than going back to the chef and being like, well, we don't have enough, and then not being able to do anything, as a cook, you can go back and say, well, we've got enough chickpeas in house to make 2 cups. So, like 4 people max. You're welcome. But it's a better answer than I couldn't find it, chef. We're out. Like there's something there, right? And you didn't have to do any math as the viewer here.
That's the best part for, if you're a prep cook, not having to worry about doing all the math for a recipe that has multiple ingredients like this.
Totally.
Yeah, it helps out a lot.
Okay, so would you put that back to 4 cups just for my peace of mind? Thank you so much. Okay, so the next thing is you've got to gather your mise en place, right? So like you need a list of ingredients to walk through the kitchen and go gather. So for me, I would write this down on a little scrappy bit of paper that, like back of a ticket, receipt tape, whatever, because now I'm going to walk around the kitchen. You could also, if you have this on your phone, go through and just mentally use that and check this off. There is not yet, we're working on it. There's not yet like a checkbox feature of I got this ingredient or I've used this ingredient. It is in the works, but not yet. Okay, so now you're gathering your ingredients. The next thing to do is to optimize both your prep space and your storage space. I was telling Mitchell about this a few weeks ago, but I remember in culinary school, I was in this one class where we cooked lunch for like 500 kids. It was my job to slice the cheese that day. So there were, I don't know, 6 bricks of, 5 pounds each of cheese. I'm in like 100-degree kitchen. I got all of the cheese out, set it all next to the slicer. The chef walks by, he's like, what temperature are you cooking that cheese to, Sarah? Oh.
I'm pretty sure you used that on me as well. You said
I definitely have. So then at that moment, I was like standing at a low boy. I put the cheese underneath in the refrigeration, like right at the same station I was at. Anyway, so it's just a note. It's something I always remember to keep your ingredients stored properly, even as you're using them, but also to keep your workspace tight, because should you have to shift, maybe you only have 2 feet of space in the kitchen, depending upon where you're at. Just, doing everything you can to utilize the space and give yourself room to work. This clean board, clean mind in my world. Okay, we've got our ingredients. Now, Mitchell, what do we do first?
Well, I think we're gonna scan like I brought up before. We're gonna scan each recipe here and see what might be done immediately. What can I do first to get it out of the way? Maybe something that needs to soak or
Right.
something like that.
So that productivity rule that sticks in corporate office and day-to-day life, if it takes 2 minutes, do it now. 2 minutes or less, do it now. So what are those things that we have that we can do right now?
If I was looking at this quick, I would say to soak the chickpeas here.
Right, because that you're not even going to be able to start until tomorrow unless those chickpeas are soaked.
So I'm
So
really late now.
you're very late. But yes. Okay, so you're going to soak chickpeas, and then this is going to be added to your prep list for tomorrow. So you're basically done with that recipe for today.
Yeah.
Great job. Super efficient. That's why I hired you. Okay, what's next?
So next, I think I would go and see what recipe takes the longest. What's going to take the longest where I can start now, or it would take a long time. So I'm trying to figure out which
So
between these two.
I hear that. My only argument with that, because I have to have that, of course, is that you have to consider what is active prep versus passive prep. So what needs your attention for the longest versus what is going to take the longest total to do. If you are starting a project where you can't leave, you can't walk away from that mixer, that Roboku, that whatever, that slicer for the entire time, and there's something that could be happening passively behind you, like we're going to bring that stock up to a boil, that's the thing I would start first, is the thing that's going to get to a passive moment the fastest, right? Does everybody understand the active versus passive moment of organization here? So of these two, which one is passive?
Chicken stock would be passive.
Totally. Especially if your mise en place is already prepped out. That's going to be the part that's the active, right? Is just building and cutting and then getting it to a boil and reducing to a simmer as fast as possible. Okay, so that's the next piece. What are some examples of things that might be active, like constant?
Making dressings, making something that just doesn't take very long, that you can just have your attention on and finish in time.
And the only other piece that I would take into consideration when organizing this is the equipment usage. Let's say pastry is using the mixer right now, so you cannot use that to make your mashed potatoes. You've got to make sure that you can work that in. So the last step to this is organizing with the rest of the kitchen, because you do not exist on an island, most likely. What has everybody else got going on today, and when are they going to need those key pieces of equipment? Maybe you have a combi oven. Maybe there's a, I don't know, anti-griddle. I don't even know what those are used for. But what are those specialty items? Like you need an immersion circulator set at this temperature for this long. That's totally passive, but it could also interrupt somebody else's day. So organizing across the kitchen is the next piece. And the spicy mayo, is that 100% active?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Should be if you have mayonnaise done.
Yeah, if mayonnaise is another, if this was a sub recipe here, that would be a whole nother story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I assigned you pre-made mayo. How did that happen? Okay.
That's never happened before.
It's never happened before.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, so you get to mix that and you're done in 3 minutes. So then you're immediately on break or going to help somebody else in the kitchen, most likely. Okay, awesome. So what questions do we have from everybody here that we can answer? How are you using this in your kitchen? Where do you need help?
Let's see. I have a question. Is there a way to alter conversions? And what I'm asking is, so let's say I have my batch size is ×6, and it ends up converting what I originally had in cups of flour to now a weight of flour, ounces or grams.
Mm.
Can I control the way that that converts?
So yes, it should convert your default to, it should stick on your default, right? So if you wrote the recipe in grams, for example, and then you hit a ×6, it should stay in grams. If you wrote it in cups, it should stay in cups. If
Okay.
the viewer wants to change it, they can change it, but the default setting is going to be the way that you wrote it.
Okay, mine changed when I
Ooh.
changed. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So how, is there something on the back end that I can access?
So actually, I kind of want to chat with you after just to see
Okay.
it, because it shouldn't
Sure.
be doing that. It should stick.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm wondering if there might be something there. Mitchell, will you go into the hummus recipe, like double click on that sub recipe? So what should be happening, this is a great moment to bring up the U of M thing, which you can't see because you are in here as a viewer. So if you went to the ingredient page, for example, for dried chickpeas or baking soda, maybe baking soda is a better example.
So since I have view access, do you want me to pull
can.
up? Do you want me to pull up a different account?
No, I'll pull it from here.
Okay.
But do you have the U of M poster handy?
If I can find that, 1 second.
So it's a great time to just showcase the math that's happening behind, which is one of the most common questions that we get is how does it know, or can I change that? This isn't how this measures out in my kitchen. We can show you how to change that. So Mitchell, I'm gonna grab the screen from you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, if I go into hummus, I'm in the owner account now. If I go into hummus and I go into baking soda, I can see this unit of measure equivalency page. And I can see here that I set 220 grams equals 1 cup. This is a system ingredient, so this one was auto-populated. What this means is if I'm weighing out 220 grams of baking soda and then I measure that in volume, it's equivalent to 1 cup. For an ingredient to be defined and for the math to work, you need 2 out of the 3 fields here. One of the ways I like to explain this is with a stick of butter. Give me just a second and I'll grab that file. Not that okay, 9 times out of 10, we're not using a stick of butter. I know we are using a pound of butter because who's going to unwrap all of those sticks? I'm with you. But it does come in handy because if you think about it, the way that use it at home, just for a brief moment. So if I'm defining something by weight, let's say I purchase butter by the pound, that means my purchase unit of measure is defined as a weight. The volume of that, so 16 ounces is my purchase unit of measure or my weight equivalency. 16 ounces of butter is 2 cups. And if I'm going to be using butter by the stick in this imaginary kitchen that's sort of a blend of home, then how many each are in my weight? My weight is 16 ounces. That means there's 4 each here. Does that help bridge that for anybody, this visual? Okay, great. So when we're talking about going back into our recipe and changing this yield at the top, as Danny was saying, so if I want to do let's do a 5 times batch, I wrote this in, oh, actually, it doesn't do that. So I wrote this in volume for most of these. It did stick to volume, but it's going to go to the highest denominator, right? So if I go to 5 times batch, it's going to write this in quarts. If I want it to go back to cups, I can do that, but it should stay volume to volume and not tablespoons to grams. It shouldn't jump from those 2 things. Is that what was happening, Danny, where it was going from grams to cups?
That's what it was. I'll pull it up after the meeting and double check.
I would love to see that.
I'm super brand new to this, so
totally okay.
Learning.
Everybody's here to do that. That's what we're doing. Okay, other questions. So we'll dig into that, but that's how this should work, is going from like this. I wrote in ounces at the start. If I take it back down to a half batch, it's still in ounces, right? I'm weighing that tahini for this. Go ahead.
I got a question. I'm curious what you're seeing feedback from like the general industry And is this something that's replacing or supplementing the traditional like prep list? And like our operations chefs, are they able to hold their staff accountable to this as opposed to, monitoring and observing like production, let's say over time, right? Where, you see that paper list and you see that scribble mark or whatever we all
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
How do you see, do you see that? Because like, I'm implementing this into our operation. And I definitely see those pieces of value there, but from like a progress standpoint, okay, where do we stand in our day? I'm just curious as to.
So it's a great point. The one piece that we didn't talk about. So when Mitchell is finished with his prep list, what his last task in this workflow is to go in and add a comment to the recipe in this imaginary kitchen that we are living in. So if he finishes the hummus, he wrote, so this is me writing as the chef because my chef name is webinars. I said 1 times batch, please. That was on the 24th. That day he wrote, chef, I put it in the walk-in, top shelf to the left. So there's a timestamp there and a total of what I completed, a 1 times batch and a timestamp, right? Also a location. So if you're adding a storage, like this is where we store this, to your recipe as a note, it could live here on the bottom or up at the top, whatever. If you're adding that as an additional piece of direction, like this needs to live on the lunch side of the walk-in, whatever that is, that gives the next person who's coming in, the line cook, a way to go and find that, right? And not ask you. So where this saves the time is that it's putting your brain in an external source and they're not tugging on you for every single thing. That's where the feedback is coming in, where it's like, this is giving me peace of mind. It also gives your cooks peace of mind because they're not responsible to do the math now. The program does that. So you're seeing fewer errors and better productivity using this method.
Okay, great. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
In regards to, let's say you've hired your team, an opening team, is that part of maybe a bullet point or part of a training on meez in terms of, hey guys, we're using this platform, please use this comment section to
It can be. Yeah, it is really personalized to each account, right? So when you get with your customer success manager, he's going to walk you through what does success look like for you. If part of success is I want a handle on how we're prepping and the efficiency in that, then walking through a workflow like this makes a lot of sense. But there are so many different use cases for meez that we don't suggest them all right off the bat, right? Are you coming for an approval process for recipes from cooks up to a chef, or what are the pieces you're here for? Are you here for costing? We try to drill that down in that first onboarding call. And if you would like another one of those, if you got one already and it wasn't specified toward this, we're happy to walk you back through that. Or like at any point in time, come to us and say, I want to build this workflow so that we are implementing this across my team throughout all the units. This is how we're going to use meez. And then one of the simplest ways to like solidify that is to create a doc that's like how we use meez. And right now this doc is empty, but yours doesn't have to be, right? Could be bullet points of we're going to add tags to our recipes that the tags may have the storage and information in them. I'm just wondering if I put one on here. I think I did. Additional details. Yeah. So in this case, I actually use the tools section as a tag section. And you can see that if we click edit here. If I wanted to say like that this is where I want this on the lunch side of the walk-in, then I'm adding that as a tag. Maybe I'm tagging for locations. Perhaps I'm tagging for dietary restrictions, or tagging for when does this come up? And one of the reasons I'm showing you this is because this is another way to organize your recipes. So if you've added tags, which right now are called tools, here, maybe you want to use this for tools because you have a combi oven or an anti-griddle or all the fancy things, but maybe you're just a kitchen with a bunch of whisks, and I totally understand. That was the kind of kitchen I worked in. So here, if I hit filter, I can see everything that's supposed to go on the lunch side of the walk-in, every recipe that's supposed to be stored there. If I were using this as a storage location, if I were using this as a prep list, I want to see everything that's supposed to be prepped the week of 4/24. Boom. Now I've got my prep list and this sticks, right? So now I can search within this and I'm only going to see the results that stick with that filter. Make sense? So it's just one more way of organizing and setting yourself up. There's a ton of use cases here, and we dig into these pretty much every webinar. That's what it's about, is here's another way to use meez. We do these every other Monday.
Okay.
Okay. Happy to talk more if you want to build out a workflow for your team. We can definitely help you with that.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone's can personalize it to how they are setting up their ops, depending on what kind of model they're using, et cetera, et cetera. It's, yeah, I'm like very big on process and documentation, and like, because we're kind of like a fast find counter, quick service model. Like, I'm not like the chef anymore, so to speak. And I'm like, I'm removing myself from like those little things of, so I want this tool to help almost like be a scaler.
Yep, it's at a higher level that you want this to be effective and efficient. I'm with you. This can be used in that way, but we help every kitchen from a single pastry chef to a multi-unit, multi-concept international brand. Like, we do all of that, which is why we have so many webinars. Okay, I got time for one more question. Anybody else want to dig in? Does everything we talked about make sense? Organizing active to passive, walking through how to build a prep list. I will link up our last webinar here where we did a little bit more of that, how to build a prep list walkthrough. We had actually 5 different examples of how you could do this, including that tag system that I just mentioned. That's one way. Yes. Mitchell, how was your prep experience?
It was incredible. I only had to do a couple things and I'm done for the day.
That was the soonest you've ever gone on break. Okay, so I'm linking here our webinars page. This was under the #1 reason your theoretical food costs are off. That's how we walk through how to build prep lists right there. Because the #1 reason that your theoreticals are off is because the actual happenings in your kitchen don't match up with your theoreticals. So we have a part 2 to this where we kind of do another deep dive into the day-to-day of getting yourself organized and using meez to do that. That will be on May 22nd. I'm in another time zone in my mind. So May 22nd will be part 2 of this, and we'll be digging in further from there. We are also, this is the first time I'm saying this out loud to the public, but we are in the midst of launching a community because we recognize how many different use cases we have and how many different customers we have that are brilliant, honestly. And we'd love for you to be talking to each other and helping each other in, like, this is how I use meez, and get it, like, making this a much better place for everybody to coexist. So I am going to be launching that soon. If you're interested in that, please throw a message up in the chat and I will add your name to the list. We'll be launching in June, early stages, and then rolling out through August to invite everybody who's a user. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned. Got you, Shelly. Thank you.